Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar, Tips to Selling West Sweden and Gothenburg. My name is Paloma Villaverde del Rico, and I'm the editor-in-chief of Recommend Magazine and moderator of this webinar, which has been made possible by Visit Sweden. Our speaker today is Magnus Lindberg, Marketing Manager, Travel Trade for Visit Sweden. For today's webinar, he will be speaking about West Sweden and Gothenburg, a region with thousands of islands, fishing villages with world-class seafood, and a rich, unspoiled natural landscape perfect for outdoor adventures. Gothenburg is Sweden's second largest city and quite often also described as Sweden's culinary capital. It's the home of Volvo, historic cobblestone neighborhoods with fantastic cafes, Swedish design and fashion boutiques, and the urban music fest Way Out West. Before we begin, a few housekeeping items. During the presentation, feel free to enter your questions in the question box. We'll gather them together and hold a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. If your questions have not been answered, we will be providing our speakers with all the questions so they can respond offline. Don't worry, if you miss something, this webinar is being recorded and you will receive a link via email to access the recording at your leisure. For those who attend the entire presentation, one attendee will win a $100 gift card and all attendees will earn 2 CEU credits. We'll be announcing the winner at the end of the presentation. So sit back, get comfortable. The webinar begins now. Magnus, take it away.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Paloma, for a beautiful presentation and introduction. I'm going to start with to thank everybody that is listening now to our tremendous increase of bookings into Sweden. We had 44% increase from 2016 to 2017. That's fantastic. And you as a travel agent, you will see that there is a lot of full flights flying into Scandinavia and to Stockholm and Gothenburg, etc. I'm focusing on a region that is very dear to me. It's West Sweden, the home of Volvo, one of the most pristine coastlines according to CNN, and it's the second largest city of Sweden. Also has a vast area around where you can do a lot of activities that is on the water but also inland. The new luxury is a lot to go inward and to be more out in the nature, to relax. We've seen how much the nature actually is helping you, and we can see the trend that people actually want to do activities in nature on the water. Also seeing smaller cities or secondary cities on a destination. Stockholm, you're all aware of, that's the capital, and that's also where you fly into most of the times to Stockholm. How to get there, the location, you know, where if you are from Sweden, you will think that Stockholm is in the very center of the universe here on the map here. And then it's only 50 minutes flying to Gothenburg. But having said that, also Scandinavia and Sweden is in the northern part of Europe, but it's very close by to St. Petersburg, where it's 1 hour flying, 1 hour to Copenhagen, 2 hours to London, 3 hours to Rome, which means you can fly in, you can do West Sweden and Gothenburg, and you can venture out in rest of Europe if you like, if you don't see that you have a time to be in Sweden for the whole time. The peninsula, you see, it's almost look like a little reindeer up there. The yellow part is where we are going to look today. It's on the upper right corner from your side. We do work with a lot of airlines. One of them is the Premier Airline and the Scandinavian Airlines. That's the largest airline in Scandinavia. It's also a legacy airline. They have 3 classes. They have economy, premium economy, or economy extra, and business class cabins. So 3 cabins, all modern fleets. They fly from Miami. They fly from Newark, New Jersey, DC, Boston, Chicago, Los Angeles. So there is a great, and they also has a great connection with the Star Alliance. Another airline is Norwegian Airline. That's a low-cost carrier. That's more, if you compare it with something, you should compare it with JetBlue. Very modern fleet, 787s or the Dreamliner, 2 cabins, economy and premium economy. So that's how you get there. They fly from Fort Lauderdale, Orlando, New York, Los Angeles, Oakland outside San Francisco. Fantastic connections into rest of Europe, I would say, from Stockholm. So here is my Heimat. Here is my slice of heaven, Gothenburg and West Sweden. We're starting with Gothenburg, which is a beautiful city, very easy to walk around. 20 minutes if you take the circle here, it's 20 minutes from one side to the other side. You do need to walk pretty fast though, but otherwise enjoying the city is fantastic. There's compact, as I said, there's a lot of museum, the Gothenburg Museum of Art and the Poseidon, the Museum of Gothenburg, the old city hall, and the opera house located on the river of Gothenburg. It also has a big cruise terminal. That's also the old America cruise terminal. That's where people went from Sweden to United States back in the days before we had flying there. This is just a few shots I'm going to show you now of the city. There is a canal that runs around it, built by the Dutch people. Within that canal is sort of the very downtown area of Gothenburg. Here you see the canal. You can do a lot of activities on the canal or walk on the canal. Beautiful architecture, beautiful museums along here. Also kayaking. If you're more active, you can actually do a city kayaking within the city. Fantastic. If you want to venture out, this is 20 minutes outside the city center. It's called Vrångö. This is typical the West Coast, the granite rocks, clean rocks, beautiful salty water, small fishermen villages where you eat one of the best and freshest fish and seafood you can see. Oysters is one of a delicacy in Sweden and globally. So is lobster, so is crayfish, and so is Dover sole or cod. When I was a child, cod was daily. You ate that daily. Salmon was luxury. Now cod is one of the finest fishes you can eat. If you want to get your adrenaline kicking, you can go drive out in these sightseeings where you go with an old Volvo called PV. These are from the 60s, and you drive around, you get a guided tour, and they also tell you how the city looked in the 60s and architecture from the cities. And in the corner here, you also see people that took the slower route. They're kayaking in the canals, as I mentioned. The art museum in the top right corner. Sightseeing, regular sightseeing, boats, a lot of it is on the water. A lot of things is in Sweden in general on the water. You should never miss the water ways when you go to a city. Gothenburg is a fine example of that. Also, when it comes to food, when it comes to socializing, there is a lot and heaps of restaurants, cafes, etc. One of the best shopping in Sweden, I would say, because it's very compact. And going to Sweden, you need to know one word, and that's fika. We are like the Brits. When the Brits needs to discuss something, they have a cup of tea. Swedes has a cup of coffee, or what we call fika, F-I-K-A. This is done at 11. It's done at 3. It's done all day long with a cup of coffee, and therefore there is also a lot of coffee houses and roasteries along in the city of Gothenburg. The pristine quays along, you go and grab food and sit along the quay watching people go by and the city go by in the summertime. But also I want to stress how beautiful it is in the wintertime. The sun is low, it's a crisp air, and then you have the salty air from the Atlantic coast. Evening strolls around the quays is also gorgeous. Maybe an evening at the Opera House, which is featured here, is fantastic. And that's also very close where the big cruise ships come in. Crystal cruises are already coming in to Gothenburg, and I know that Ritz-Carlton cruises will also start there. This boat in the corner here is an old ship, and it's a replica of a boat that went from Gothenburg to East India and China back in the 16 and 1700s. This is today a museum, so you can go and see the museum and see how they lived on board of it. It's the replica, but it's a beautiful replica, and it's called Gothenburg. The other boat is also a museum, that's from the 18th century. We talked about Way Out West, big music concert or festival. Music is very dear for Sweden in general. We have the group ABBA you probably heard about. We have Robin. We have a lot of music in our veins, and especially in the summertime, there's a lot of festivals to go and see. Pride, we are a very open society, very liberal society. Everybody's welcome to Sweden. We do celebrate Pride in full swing. These are often 1 week in general. This year we are hosting Euro Pride, which is in Gothenburg and Stockholm in August coming up. We talked about the Four Seasons, and the amusement park of Gothenburg is a gorgeous amusement park, open now with marigolds and these wheels. I never learned what they're called in English, but you do that, or roller coasters. But in the fall, we turn it into a Halloween park. In the winter, you have the holiday and the festive celebration. Most of the Swedes are Christian, so we do celebrate a lot of Christian holidays like Christmas, Santa Lucia, which is a pagan celebration. That's the girl that arrives with the light in the very dark December. Beautiful food, Christmas smorgasbord, which is buffets with typical Christmas food is served from end of November all through December. When it comes to hotels, there are some really fabulous smaller properties. To the left here is the Pigalle, a small boutique hotel that has very much been influenced by the Paris in 1930s, 1920s. The Hotel Dorsia in the end, in the corner here down here, is also small luxury hotels of the world, beautiful. And then you have the Clarion Hotel Post, which is one of the finest hotels in Gothenburg. I just want to mention, when we talk about Clarion brand and when we talk about the choice hotels in the US, that's almost most travelers that you're dealing with won't stay at the choice hotel. Just remember, all through Scandinavia, whenever you book a choice hotel, these are most of the times the top hotels in that city. There are, of course, 5-star hotels that are 1 or 2 hotels that are part of the leading hotels of the world, but remember, Clarion hotels are beautiful. Another property and chain is the Scandic Hotel. They have 6 beautiful hotels in Gothenburg, so these are also really, really great choices for your travelers when going to the city. I'm going to move on to the West Sweden, which is the region north of Gothenburg. And this is where we are focusing today. You see the circle there, that's Gothenburg. Marstrand is another one further up, and all along here are small fishermen villages and smaller cities where you can go and visit. There is a lot of spa, recreational things, a lot of smaller huts like this is bordering the coastline. This is a typical city in West Sweden. This is actually where Ingrid Bergman celebrated her summers, called Fjällbacka. And you can see they are often built so they get protection from the granite rocks that is specific for the region. Smaller fishermen villages, a lot of them you can actually have dinners in, and you can meet the locals, you can dine with the locals and see those. Beautiful art, sculpture gardens, Pilane, which is on the left-hand side here. And in the corner, you see also the Aquarell Museum of West Sweden. Beautiful. What do you do else there? You go to the sculpture park, but you want to eat something. Maybe you want to help to fish things. That's very popular. You can do oyster safaris, you can do seafood safaris. If you don't like seafood or oysters, you can go out with a fisherman to fish mackerel, cod, and what have you, and they prepare it for you, you know, the daily catch, what you manage to catch, and they prepare it for you. Normally smaller boats like this, but it's very authentic, and it's a lot of fun to do this. I'm going to show you a video here, I hope, and you should just sit back and relax, and you see what I mean when I talk about the region. Salty water, sea kayaking is one of the things. The water gets pretty warm. You can go swimming in the water here. It's about 75, 76 degrees at the moment, which is warm for Scandinavian at least. This is the West Sweden, how it looks, and that's what you should enjoy doing it. You can also, we have something called freedom to roam. That means that you are entitled to put up a tent wherever you want to go without asking permission of the owner of the land. That's something very typical Swedish. Freedom to roam. You can go out in the nature. You don't need to follow special hiking trails, etc. Speaking about hiking, it rhymes with biking. Biking has a huge impact on Sweden, and the biking tourism is really booming. We work with several companies that are specializing in biking tours. They started with 15 groups. Now next year, 2019, they're up to 40 groups of 20 people in each. They are just biking, enjoying the coastline of Sweden and West Sweden. If you don't want to do that, you can do something called island hopping, or you go with boats to different islands, or you can go the Göta Canal, which goes from Gothenburg up all the way to Stockholm. That takes 7 days. But if you just want to go out in the water on one of these old steamer boats, you can do that as well. This is a very typical image of a village, which you will see. If you want to be more regal and you want to visit more palaces and castle, the one to the left here is Lakeya Palace. That's from the 1500s, beautiful. That's also the region where we do the very typical Swedish porcelain called Rörstrands, and then you can also stay in a manor house like Bjertorp Slot there. I hope you had lunch, because after lunch comes these goodies. You have the cinnamon rolls to the left, and the green domed thing here is a very typical Swedish cake, which called princess cake. It's basically pound cake, custard, fresh strawberries, lots of whipped cream, and then covered in this dome. That's something that you really need to try when you go to Sweden. Other smaller properties are there. Villa Sjötorp, for instance, it's an old villa that looks like a Russian dacha, beautiful. Marstrand, an old destination, and a spa destination where Oscar II went on his trips back in 1900s, but also modern hotels like in Gullmarstrand and Lådfabriken, which is a beautiful, only 5 rooms there. This is Lådfabriken inside. This is really the westernmost destination called Väderöarna. That's another part where you really should go. It's, in Swedish term, it's one of those really luxurious thing, and the luxury is to be out on an island. You don't get further out on a Swedish island than this. And I have some very good restaurant on this island. That's really West Sweden and Gothenburg in a nutshell. And again, we are increasing a lot on the US travelers, and we know the importance of the travel trade. Travel agencies are super important for us. So is our collaboration with Recommend magazine. We always value the relationship we had with Recommend, and I'm here in the US, I'm based in New York, I'm your left hand. Whatever you need help with, you can always contact me for that. And after this presentation, I'm going to send you an update. I'm going to send you a few videos about an influence we just have to West Sweden and see what they did, and also some more information where you get good information for Gothenburg and West Sweden on their web pages. So I just wanted to say welcome to something else and welcome to West Sweden. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Magnus. Thank you very much. It's a beautiful presentation. We actually have quite a number of questions coming in. The first one came in from Pamela, and she wants to know if Gothenburg has a Christmas market.
Yes, several Christmas markets. Every Christmas is enormous in Sweden, so there is a lot of Christmas markets in every city. Gothenburg has one large Christmas market at the Amusement Park. They really make it into Santa Claus theme at the Amusement Park Liseberg, but also at the big squares and so on. Almost each region of it has its own Christmas market.
And she's asking, is it best to visit over the Santa Lucia day?
I think December in general is very festive. Santa Lucia is sort of, it's almost kicking off Christmas. So I would say that that's one of the top times to go there. Beautiful. Because they have Santa Lucia in the hotels you're staying, at the restaurant you're going to, it's very important for us to celebrate that. And also for the younger, it's a lot of party as well during Santa Lucia.
So it's a nice time to go with the family?
Oh, gorgeous, beautiful.
That's wonderful. And how many, Jan is asking, how many nights would you suggest in Gothenburg?
I would say a minimum of 2 nights. If you can do 3 nights, maybe you add 1 night out in the archipelago or in one of these smaller inns. But if you're only looking into doing Gothenburg, a minimum of 2 nights. 3 nights is 3 perfect days, really.
Okay, and actually that brings me to the next question, because Ray Ann is asking if you want to sightsee outside the city, is the best way to rent a car, or are there any other suggestions?
I would say, cars is always, we have all the car rental companies in Sweden, and in Gothenburg you have Hertz, Avis, Europcar, Budget, and so on. If I want to go on a sightseeing outside the city center, I will take the tram and then jump on the ferries. That's, there is ferries that goes to these small islands all year round, because it's commuter ferries. I think that's a much more authentic and fun way to see the destination. And the trams really goes very frequently, and it's not like you're commuting on a train for 2 hours. You take a train for 20 minutes and you're out in this pristine coastline. You can also add Marstrand, which is the island in West Sweden. You take, buses to go there, really good buses and good transportation by train up the coast as well. So if you want to venture out in West Sweden and the smaller islands and villages, you might want to take a car. You might want to have a car there.
But the tram and the ferries, that sounds like you're hanging with the locals, so that sounds wonderful.
Really, yeah, I just did that, and it's fantastic. We were 8 travel agents on board, and we all sat quiet just looking at these. You see the houses, the summer houses people are living in. You see everybody swimming or enjoying the time, and it went so fast. It was just beautiful. Instead of we are car manufacturers, of course we want you to use a Volvo while you're there, but if you take 1 day off the car, I would stay and use the public transportations.
That sounds very nice. So Susan is asking, how expensive is it to visit Sweden compared to other regions in Europe?
Oh, it's frightfully expensive. No, I'm joking. You must remember that the US dollar is very high at the moment. It's 8.9, sometimes 9 kroner to a dollar. When I moved to the United States, it was 6.50. So it's been a huge value for the US travelers to go to Sweden at the moment. There is also taxes that has been reduced since we become part of the EU. So I would say that Sweden will never be a low budget destination, but it's affordable. You can find good hotels for around $175 to $200, and that's always, you should remember also, breakfast, VAT, all service charges and taxes are always included in the hotel accommodation. Also commissionable rates on these. So it is very affordable, and I would say, depending on which destination you're comparing with, a larger city is always more expensive than a smaller village, perhaps, when it comes to accommodation. But it is an affordable destination, and I think you see a lot of value for the money you're using. Another thing, a sideline there is food is very important in Sweden. We work a lot with gastronomy. In every restaurant, more or less, in Sweden, they have something called the daily special. A daily special is always included on a meat, fish, or vegetarian option, salad buffet before, or a salad, water and coffee. That's normally around 200 SEK, which is about $25–30, and it's all inclusive in a restaurant served at the table.
Yeah, that's a great value.
Yeah,
that's excellent. Now I'm hungry. I have to go have lunch.
Yeah, me too.
So Eva is asking if when you send the email, there is any way you can list the hotels that you spoke about and spell them out, because it's just a little tough for them phonetically to write down the correct spelling of the hotel. So if that's something you could do when you do the email.
Yes, I will do hotel links for you. It's the same with the regions. You know, some of the words are tongue twisters for us with the names of the villages and so on. But I will definitely list my top choices of hotels and a link to them, so you can see them.
Excellent. And Ida is asking, and this was something that we were conversing about before the webinar, is how warm are the summer months in Sweden?
Yes, we just talked about that, and we are at the moment, we had a record really, where it's been in the 90s for 4 or 5 weeks, and it's been in the 80s maybe since beginning of May, which is unheard of. There hasn't been one raindrop for almost 2 months, which is unheard of and not so great. It's wonderful because it warms up the water, but it's also drying out the wells and so on. But normally, I would say a normal warm summer would be around 80–85 in July, August. Cooler evenings, you know, but very pleasant. Very, very rare that we get a humid heat wave, for instance. That's very rare. I would say for evenings, I think you would, if you sit outside, which you want to do, you know, to see the light, you should maybe have a shawl or something warmer if you sit out later. But it's nice. A beautiful time of the year to come, and you never feel, even if you're walking in a bigger city, you don't feel like you're
it's
perspiring
not
much. Yeah, no.
Oh, that's wonderful. That sounds wonderful. And then Lucille and Lucille and Jean are actually asking if there are any FAMs to Gothenburg and West Sweden, travel agent FAMs.
We do those FAM trips pretty regularly, and we are always, if you're interested to join a FAM, send me an email, because I collect them, and then, you know, we talk about to be able to join. So we want to travel trade to see our destination. It's always easier to sell it when you've seen it. So definitely we do those, and I just had one in June actually.
And how many participants in the fam?
We normally run them small because we are a bit egoistic. We want to get to know the people we are traveling with, and we want it to be pleasant for the participants as you take your time off and to learn about the destination. So we normally between, I would say, never more than 10, maybe 8 people, including me or one of my colleagues. So I would say 8 is going most of the time.
Okay, and then Dominique is actually asking if it is best to change the currency before arriving or at the airport in Sweden.
You know, I would say don't bring too much cash because Sweden is moving into a cashless society. It's,
good point.
Yes, it's really hard to pay with cash in a lot of places, even smaller cafes and restaurants. They don't take it. Sweden wants to be cashless in 2020. If you do, however, the Forex has a good value. I think you could do it at the airport when you arrive. If you want to tip, and that's, you know, you want to tip at the hotel, as we normally, if we are in America, we normally are used to tip okay. The hotel and so on. Tip is another thing. Tip is never expected. You know, it's nice if you round up, but never 20-25%. That's very rare that the wait staff get that, or hotels get tip like that.
Oh, that's funny because that's the next question. Actually, Isabella wanted to know what the tipping custom was in Sweden. So you answered her question. You're clairvoyant, yes. Magnus.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I am.
And obviously, they accept all American credit cards, correct? Jean is asking.
Yes, they do. Yes, excellent. They do. You know, it's same here. I think sometimes in a smaller place or a smaller establishment, it can be sometimes hard with American Express or diners, but that's very rare that there would be a problem. All the major ones are accepted freely or highly.
And then is the amusement park that you spoke about, is that suited for everybody? Is that family? Is it better for just the kids with the family or for adults? How is that? Can you describe that amusement park a little bit more?
Yes, I think that's one of the best places to go, especially if you're multi-generational or traveling. The kids, the smaller kids, goes to one part, maybe with a chaperone. Your grandma and grandfather sits in a nice cafe or just sit on a park bench enjoying flowers, or, you know, enjoying the grandchildren playing around or so on. I think it's one of the best places to go when you are a group of people or a family. You know, it's always things to do for everyone, you know, and there's also same restaurant, from finer restaurants to more fast food restaurants, suitable for everybody, really. Also have concerts, also has more slow dancing areas and so on. It's a perfect place for people to go, and especially if you do multi-generational. I can't think of a better way to. When I went with my grandparents, it was funny, not only because they brought the wallet, but it was funny to, you know, just hang around with your grandmother and grandfather, and they maybe didn't do the roller coaster, but they enjoyed watching us being excited about it. So I definitely recommend. Liseberg is beautiful, really beautiful.
You know, there's a question a couple of people have asked it about, is it better to go, are there guided tours, and is it better to go on a guided tour, or do you suggest that travel agents book their clients on a self-guided tour?
You mean like a hop on and hop off? Or?
I think no, like a tour operator, you know, that's what I believe is they're asking. So sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, if you want to do a program, you know, to add things going out in the archipelago or so on, that yes, I would probably put up a few bullet points for them and have So, but guided tour, guided bus tour around or so on, it's nice. Hop on, it's nice. But I don't really think you need to do that. It depends on the client, obviously, but I think self-guiding would be perfect here because it's so compact and easy going.
Yeah, it seems easy to get around by the way that you did the presentation. Yeah. And then one last question. What about English? Is it spoken outside in the countryside as well, in the islands and all that?
Yes, Swedes are a bit shy, but if you can basically say, if you talk to a person that is 11, 12 years old up to nowadays maybe up to 75, they will speak and understand English. They might be a little bit shy and few words, but they do understand what you're saying. So definitely, Sweden is very easy to get around if you don't speak Swedish or the
Excellent.
language.
All right. And they're all very charming like you, right, Magnus?
Of course, yes. Thank you. That's very kind of you. Yeah.
And so we're ready to announce the winner of the $100 gift card. But before I do that, please remember, everyone listening, that you will be receiving a link via email to access the recording at your leisure of this webinar. And Magnus will be giving you some more information via that email. So the winner of the $100 gift card is Carol Naquin or Nakin. The last name is spelled Naquin. Carol. So you have just won a $100 gift card. And thank you all for attending the webinar. And thank you, Magnus, for a great presentation. Have a lovely rest of the afternoon.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks.